Hello readers, I'm the Avid Reader and today we're reviewing Disclosure, written by Michael Crichton in 1994. This is one of the more controversial books written by Michael Crichton, and it's about sexual harassment, but it reverses the genders. So a guy gets harassed by his female boss and you see the consequences of this. So the story centers around the protagonist, Thomas Sanders, and he's a married man with children, and he thinks that he's gonna get a promotion soon, and he comes to work on a Monday, and then it turns out at the meeting he's not getting the promotion. Instead, his ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago, Meredith Johnson, is getting the promotion. She's gonna be his boss now. Thomas Sanders works at a company called Digicom and he's a manager, and now his ex-girlfriend is gonna outrank him. And she asks him to come over in the evening to talk to her, to go over a new business deal they're doing, as Digicom is gonna merge with another company who's gonna incorporate it into its business. Thomas Sanders comes over, Meredith has brought some wine, her secretary leaves them alone, locks the door, they pour some wine to each other, he drinks a little bit, she drinks a lot. Then she starts making comments at him, he places a call to one of his colleagues talking some business, and while he's doing so, she comes up behind him and starts touching him and starts making sexual innuendos, and she's trying to get him to sleep with him, and they start doing their foreplay stuff, but before it gets too serious, he breaks it off. She gets angry at him, she throws stuff at him, she hits him, he leaves. He passes some cleaner, he goes home. His wife wants to sleep with him. He says no, she gets angry at him. The next day he comes to work late because Meredith screwed up his schedule. And they have a business meeting. Meredith starts saying some things that doesn't make sense to him. He contradicts her. This makes him look stupid. Later on, he goes to the company lawyer, Phil Blackburn. And Phil basically tells him Meredith has filed a sexual harassment suit against him. And Meredith has made a sexual harassment charge against him. And Thomas says no, it was she who did it, and it's clear that the company is taking her side. And Meredith is kind of like a daughter for the head of the company, who's called Bob Garvin. And the lawyer tells him, we're gonna transfer you to Austin, please. But Thomas knows that his company is gonna soon go public, and if he's transferred to Austin instead of staying in Seattle, he's gonna lose his stock options in the future. So he refuses to do so, and he goes to a female lawyer called Luis Fernandez. He explains his case, she listens to him coldly, she lays out the facts, she tells him to go to his wife to tell what happened. He does so. She's kind of angry at him but kind of understands. Thomas Sanders has bought 3 plane tickets for her and the kids so they can travel to New Mexico or Arizona, take a few days off, while he handles this alone. He meets up with his lawyer again. She's got some private investigators doing some work. They're going to talk to people who kind of have been witnesses. The company lawyers have proposed a mediation process where they bring in a neutral judge. Thomas and his lawyer Fernandez agrees. Next day they meet up. Thomas Sanders lays out his side of the story and he tells the truth as much as he remembers. And then it's Meredith's turn to speak and she makes up a bunch of lies. And you have some cross-examination between the lawyers and the accusee and the defendee. And then they go on break for lunch. Thomas actually calls his colleague, and it turns out as the call he made to his friend during the meeting with Meredith went to voicemail, it recorded the whole event. So now he has proof what Meredith did to him. So they go back to the mediation process, and Meredith has decided to change her story and say, yeah, it was kind of consensual, but she accuses him of provoking her because they were getting into it and then he refused her. And she basically says, no means no only when women says it. No means no doesn't mean so with a man, and you have a right to get angry at him, and men are sexual creatures compared to women. So you can see some of the reverse sexism. Michael Crichton is very good at showing the double standards between the men and women in this book. And the central message of this book, by the way, is that sexual harassment, rape, it's connected to power. It doesn't have to do anything with gender. The lawyer of the company, Phil, has offered him a better severance package of $300,000. He refuses. Thomas is going back and forth to his company collecting files, but some of the things have been wiped out. He meets up with his lawyer again. He has dinner with her, and the CEO, Bob Garvin, learns about the evidence recorded, so he makes a pretty good offer to Thomas, and that he's gonna fire Meredith, and that he's gonna get a raise, and that he's gonna keep his stock options. So they're thinking about signing a contract where they're gonna accept this. When he's back back at the company building, Thomas overhears Meredith and some other guy being conspiratorial and how they're gonna screw over Thomas. So Thomas meets with his lawyer. All these business people, they're at a dinner, and then outside there's some press people. So the lawyer Phil goes outside. All of this press has been caused by the fact that Phil leaked it to a newspaper woman who wrote an opinion piece calling Thomas Mr. Piggy and accusing him of falsely accusing Meredith. You can see the slanted view of the opinion piece. In the middle of the night, Thomas Sanders and Luis Fernandez return to the office building. They go to some VR thing where they pull out a bunch of files. So there is a little bit of sci-fi in this book. Not much, but a little bit. You need to remember, this was written in 1994. So Michael Crichton predicted a bunch of science that was to happen a few years later. Pretty damn well, so I'd say it's still science fiction. They pull some files. They get help from one of the leaders of the merger company that they're gonna be working with. He finds evidence that proves that Meredith has screwed up the components that they're going to make these storage units where they're gonna store a bunch of data in. And she's taking some shortcuts in it at the factory in Malaysia, and the guy in Malaysia has been screwing over Thomas. And then Tom gets some evidence from his hacker friend proving this, and next day they have a meeting with the company as was agreed with all the participants. Here Thomas Sanders basically exposes Meredith. Meredith tries to do damage control, it doesn't work, and basically the merger is called off as Thomas Sanders has proved that the technology they've been manufacturing has been screwed up by Meredith Johnson. So Thomas fires the guy in Malaysia. Bob Garvin has to fire Meredith, and he fires also his lawyer Phil for screwing up with the press. And Meredith feels self-pity for herself, but Thomas has no sympathy for her. And the book ends with his wife and kids returning back to Seattle, and they have a happy reunion, and he sees Meredith taking a plane and he basically ignores her. But Thomas Sanders does not get the promotion in the end, and in the end Meredith and Phil, they got some pretty good jobs in other places. That's the story. So how would I rate Disclosure? I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. This is in my top 10 books. I think it's my top third Crichton book I've read so far, and I think I've read 9 of them. So Sphere and Jurassic Park are better, but Disclosure is better than State of Fear and Prey and some other Crichton books. So I would definitely recommend you to read this book. It's quite controversial with some sexual harassment claims happening in the past few years. Reading this is quite refreshing, as you can see. Okay, you can have false accusations, and sexual harassment is linked to power. Actually, it's genderless, and the company will try to protect one of their own, often against the accusee. And when the accusee accuses someone, even if it's legitimate, their career is ruined. It's a very interesting read. You can also read this very fast, and I've read this in half a week, so it's quite fast-paced. It's a thriller, basically a crime thriller, with some sci-fi in it thrown in for the mix. The thing with Crichton is, the thing with Michael Crichton, he manages to take a controversial subject and turn it into an exciting thriller. So it's a 10 out of 10. Definitely read it. If you're interested in controversial Michael Crichton books like Disclosure, then I would also recommend you to read this book, State of Fear, which basically is Michael Crichton going against the mainstream of climate change. It's a really good thriller. You don't have to agree with his political views on climate change, but it's still a very interesting sci-fi thriller. Anyways, I'm the Avid Reader, and I will see you next time.